people that don't pivot get slaughtered.
Yep.
There's lots of problems that we're going to solve for people that have overextended, and it will create a tremendous opportunity for the people that understand what opportunity looks like. We're going into a period where we're all going to be able to buy more properties, better prices, and be strategic about how we finance those properties. Like, this is a great time for us. Great time.
Awesome. Welcome to another episode of the Agent to Investor podcast, where we talk about the agent side of real estate investing. We'll be talking about the successes, the failures, and all in between. My name is Nico Garcia, local real estate agent and investor based out of Montgomery County, Maryland. And as always, I'm joined by my lovely co-host.
I'm Anna Balick, Northern Virginia realtor and mostly out-of-state investor. And today I'm super excited to have a guest that I have been hoping to have come on, but I think I may have been scared to ask him up until recently to come on. I don't know why, but we have Chevez, who is, I don't even know how to describe him. He's got his hands in like everything. He's an agent. He's an investor. He's got multifaceted, this huge, I think it's huge, company that pretty much touches like construction, lending, real estate, investing. Like, you need it, he's probably got like a company that covers what you need. So I'm happy to have you here. And I think normally what we do first is we give you space to kind of introduce yourself, where you're from, how did you get into real estate, like what's your backstory, what's your origin story?
The origin story. Well, I don't know why it took you so long, girl, because like I love sharing about stuff and like talking about this stuff. So you guys are my tribe. You are agents who invest, and that's me, really. That's me. So, okay, the origin story is this. I started a recruiting business pretty much right out of college with my best friend. Like, he started it. I joined him a month later, and this was in 1998, right? And I quickly learned in that process that in order for either one of us to eat, I had to learn how to sell, right? The idea was he was going to go get some clients. I was going to help him with the back end operations. But I soon realized that for me to make the money I want to make, I got to learn how to sell. And so I went on this journey of learning how to create predictable income as a recruiter for tech salespeople, pretty much right out of college. And a couple of years in, I realized that business, while it's a great business, it's a great cash machine. In order to build wealth, I was going to have to buy assets, right? I wanted to buy assets. So I was buying a house a year, pretty much around that time, and going to other investment meetups, right? They weren't meetups at the time. They're just like RIAs. And slowly over time, falling in love with the game of real estate and real estate investing, right? So by the summer of 2005, I turned to my wife and I said, babe, I like recruiting, but I love real estate. Like, I love real estate. It's just something in me is telling me this is the direction we need to go in. But here's the problem. I think that there's going to be some kind of like implosion. I think like the tea leaves are telling me this is like probably the worst time to get into real estate. But if we can navigate whatever we're going to go through, I think we will put ourselves in an optimal position. Like, this was all theory, right? And the only reason why I had that inkling was because we'd experienced the dot-com boom and bust in our recruiting business, and we'd survived that. It was brutal. It was hard. And it took every fiber in my body to get us through that business onto the other side. And by 2005, we were stabilized, but I just wasn't in love with the business. And so we ventured off into this unknown of becoming full-time real estate investors. So from 2005 to 2008, really, that's all we did. It was just full-time real estate investing. We were buying 30 houses a year, fixing them up, selling them to investors turnkey, managing assets for other investors. And before I knew it, we had 300 assets under management. We were fixing and flipping 30 houses a year. And I'd gotten my license purely to get referral fees. And so that's how the agent side kind of started. I got all these leads that are coming in from retail sellers. I might as well monetize them. That was the idea. And I read the book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, decided to go on the journey of building the team, because I realized that whether you're a wholesaler or fixing and flipping or being an agent, it's all the same business. It's just the cash machine. That ultimately what we want to do is buy assets that pay us over time. So our money works harder than we do. But the agent business was one that I felt like I had a really big network from all my recruiting days. I understood it really well. And so we decided to venture and just start building that team, which today has become multiple teams and multiple businesses. And I learned the pattern of like these businesses. So
Uh-huh.
today we own a holding company we call Grid Capital Partners that owns vertically integrated businesses. The sales teams are still the tip of the spear because they make the flywheel go. But then we have lending and title and mortgage and construction. I'm on this journey of teaching these business owners how to build big businesses, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, so that's kind of that's the gist, guys, right? That's the origin,
Just
right?
so
I'm
so before we
married.
go forward, can I ask you real quick? Hold on, before we go forward, I'm
Sure.
curious. So you clearly had an entrepreneurial streak, but like, what turned you to real estate? Was it family? Was there a book you read? Like something sparked you to be like, oh, let me look over here.
Sure. Probably like every podcast person you've ever brought on, right? Like read Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I was like, this makes a lot of sense to me, right? And so that opened my mind. And then I attended some real estate investing meetings, and like that opened my mind even further. But that book was like the gateway drug for me.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyone that listens to the podcast and still hasn't read the book, you're clearly not listening.
That's
Read
right.
the book, right?
So Rob, you mentioned like starting obviously before 2008 to 2009 housing crisis. You started 2005 and you had that inkling that something was going to happen, right? And you were trying to position yourself to be in the best position for investing. Talk to me about those early days and what you were doing to position yourself and your team to, ride that wave.
Well, let me be clear. In the beginning, there was no team, right? Well, I would say it was my wife and I, right? And then we did have a property management team. Now they were 2.5 hours away from where we lived. We were in a third party market. Here's what I realized when I looked at the numbers here locally, the numbers did not make sense. I was like, they don't make sense. I'm a buy and hold investor, and none of these assets make sense. So I went to a third tier market, right, where the numbers made sense. At least on paper, they made sense, right? Whether they proved out to be like real or not, that's not part of this discussion, right? But on paper, they look good. And what that did was that helped me learn the game. I learned the game of real estate investing. I'd send out thousands of letters. I'd get phone calls. I would qualify those phone calls. I learned how to book those appointments. I would then go on those appointments. I would then close those appointments. I would then raise the capital for those appointments, right? Renovate those properties. And like, I learned the entire game, right? Playing in this third tier market, tertiary market. And so not doing it locally protected me. So we didn't like, there's so many people that I've talked to during that time that like lost their shirt and lost assets and all the rest. Luckily, I had kind of this, I had experienced something before that that gave me a little bit of a warning sign about what could come. So I don't have that we lost everything story, right? I have we bought a bunch of stuff when the market was really low and we still own that stuff today story, right? Now I just wish we'd bought way more of that stuff. But it was hard, to be honest with you, Nico. Like I came off of an income, I was making a high six-figure income in my recruiting business and left that to go do something completely different. And it took me 4 years to make equivalent dollars to what I was making when I was a recruiter, right? And people don't realize that. Like it takes time to build a business and to figure out what you were doing. So to answer your question specifically, what did I do? Prepare myself. I just went in with a note, like being cautious and realizing that I wasn't going to overextend myself and that I wanted like 30, 60, 90-day money coming in quickly. And I needed to buy cash flow producing assets from day one. Pretty simple, right? And I wasn't speculating. I was investing, right? I was buying way below market and then making sure that I had enough margin to protect me if things went bad. Right.
I'm
That
so
was
glad
it.
you mentioned that, being open to going out of our local market. Our market is fantastic. Everybody loves coming here, which is why it's more of an equity market where, you as an investor, you know, the people that survived that housing wave had properties that are self-sustainable, meaning they're cash flowing, their rents are coming in. And although it's not, huge, they're not going to lose their shirt when, the housing prices dip, 20, 30%. And you have these loans that are, risky or things like that. I've heard a lot of stories of people that just were so used to an after repair value, fix and flipping, and they were making tons of money. And then, when they're at selling for X, they lose everything.
You want to know the people who lost? You want to know who lost, Nico? The people who did not adjust and pivot quickly. They believed that the whole market was still around, and it was like catching a falling knife. And the people that won were the ones that got real fast and said, oh shit, this market has shifted and we need to price accordingly. And they got out and they did it quickly. They ripped the Band-Aid off. The ones that kind of like were hard, like they couldn't believe what was happening, it just fell off a cliff in '08, and then it never recovered. And you're seeing a little bit of that right now with this, like speaking in our agent language, where the sellers don't believe that there's been a little bit of a shift locally in our market. And it's tiny, guys. It's tiny. Like just to give you guys perspective, like average days on market is still like under 30, right? In our Nova area. But during the crisis was like 18 months, right? Now DC is pretty bad right now. DC condo market, bad, right? And so you saw that happen in the DC condo market as well. People just weren't getting real about what needed to happen with those asset values. And so you only have two options, right? Option one is like you just decide to keep it. And by the way, the great news is if you can hold on and keep it, all those asset values came back, right? But you had to have the dry powder, the cash to keep it, or you had to be able to cover the rents with, cover the mortgage with the rents that were coming in. A lot of people just didn't have it. And some of those balloons, some of those loans just, it'll never be like it was because there were so many toxic loans, right? Before. I mean, you had negative amortizing loans in there. It's like all of a sudden, oh, surprise, your payment was $2,000, but now it's $4,500 a month.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
Liquidity got sucked up, right? So there was a lot of things that happened that made it super messy. It won't be like that, right? It's not like that.
I'm glad you're saying that because I know I've had clients and friends that are like waiting for the market to crash. Like they're like, oh my gosh, it's just like before. And I'm like, it's really not like before. Like 14 days on market, 21 days on market does not equate to 2008, 2009. Like falling apart the market.
You will see, an adjustment in some pricing, but like it's not going to be crazy. You will see an increase in foreclosures, right? You absolutely will see that because of what's happening in the economy. People are being displaced. But in general, when I tell you that every sign in the yard was either a foreclosure or a short sale in 2008, I'm not like every sign in the yard. There wasn't no, if you didn't have to sell, you weren't selling. I mean, things came down 50% in some neighborhoods, right?
Mm-hmm. It talks about, being adaptable. I know a lot of agents that are listening have sellers that are, kind of unrealistic and they're thinking, they can sell their home during pandemic prices. And I love that you touched about that is you want to keep an eye on the market because the market shifts. And although it's not, what it was during the pandemic, yes, it's shifted a little bit. So always keep an eye. And even if you're like a fix and flipper and things like that, you're an investor, you personally, I know it's, real estate is very emotional, but if you're buying a property, be realistic, like as if you're doing it with your clients, right? You don't want to price it at, X and have it sit for, 12 months and then you're.
Well, Nico, every market is different, right? Like Florida right now is getting crushed or, I'm not going to say crushed, but
comparatively speaking,
compared to where we are in Nova, like we're insulated compared to some of the other places around the country, right? Vegas has come down a lot. It's always like Vegas and some of those sand states and Florida seem to go through like this boom and bust, boom and bust, boom and bust. So we're a little bit more steady here.
Yeah.
Right.
I think having multiple exit strategies is probably also a good tip. Like even if you're a fix and flipper, like crunch the numbers and try to see what else can I do? Like you said, pivot. Like some people are one track mind. So I always tell folks you should always at least consider multiple exit strategies and figure out what you can do if you need to pull, like break the glass in case of an emergency.
Yeah, guys, we're playing chess. That's how I think about it, right? My recruiting days when I went through the dot-com boom and bust was just kind of my, oh shit, the spigot could get turned off at any second, right? And I wasn't really playing chess at the time. I was young. I didn't understand that the economy could change on a dime, right? My baby girl, we just bought a single family house in McLean. My wife wasn't working. We just had a baby. I went from making really good money to making like a third of what I was making before. And we pivoted, right? Like we rented that single family house. We went and bought another house, but it was a townhouse. So we downgraded our living conditions, right? And by the way, we think about that. There's so many people that you meet that are like, from an ego perspective, they won't allow themselves to do that, right? I went from a single family house in McLean to like a not so nice townhouse in Reston, but we were cool with it because we owned it. Like we kept buying, right? And that later became an investment property for us. And we bought multiple properties in Reston, and, some of them we still own today. So we were willing to pivot our lifestyle. And so anybody hearing here, like, hey, it's okay to pivot your lifestyle. It's okay to pivot your business. It's okay to pivot the way you do business. In fact, our whole company retreat here this past week was like pivot, right? Pivot. There's because people that don't pivot get slaughtered.
Yep.
Yeah, Rob. So I love that story of pivoting your lifestyle, getting into technically like downsizing into a townhome. Was this before or after you had your out of state or out of market investments?
That was before. That was from the years. Let me think about this. Okay, yeah. I don't even know if you guys were born yet. Actually, Nico,
I probably was born. He might not have been, but I was.
Nico, when were you born? I'm just, when were you born?
92.
90. Okay,
Oh my
you were
God.
you're definitely born. Okay, so this was, the boom happened in tech in the year 2000. Okay, in 2001 we had 9/11, and started like it popped in the beginning of 2001, right, the end of 2000, and then like 2001 it shifted, but I wasn't really paying attention that it had shifted. We bought the house in 01, right? By 02, somebody turned off the spigot, right? Our like recruitment business. And so when I bought those townhouses, it was 02, 03, 04, right? Now what was happening really weird in the economy at the time was one segment of the market was going down, tech, but one other segment of the market was going up, real estate. So from the years 2000 to 2006, like that was like the boom in real estate. Okay. So what happened was I fell in love partly with the real estate was because I was making so much more money in real estate. Like I was like buying a house, and then the next year that house was worth like $100,000 more, like $50,000 more. Like my net worth was growing, and I'm like, wow, there's a ton of leverage here. So when I pivoted, it was that first pivot in my lifestyle was around the year 2000, 2001, 2002, right? Then by 2005, I had PTSD from the recruiting business that I was like very cautious and was like, hey, babe, I want to do this thing, but this thing could pop because it feels so much like that thing, right? So you start realizing that history has a way of repeating itself and there's patterns. And so we just kept our expenses low in 05, and we ventured into this third tier market. And then when the market crashed, like we believed it would in 08, then we just started buying properties in 08 and 09, right? And, the regret is we wish we bought more, but we were still being cautious at the time, right? And then what happened was I went on this path, Nico, building like teams and businesses. You're going to laugh, but guys, at 2013, 2014, one of my biggest mistakes was I thought the real estate market was inflated again. right? I had so much PTSD from before that I was like, oh yeah, this is definitely going to change. And from like the years 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, I was like, it's been a seller's market for way too long. It's going to change again, right? I was saying this in like 14, 15, 16, 17. And so I stopped buying as much as I've been buying in years past, right? Like
Yeah.
I would say I bought a lot between the ages of 25 and 35, and then not so much between 35 and 45, some, but not as much. And then from 45 to 52, which is what I'm now, like a lot. Like I started buying a lot again because I realized, listen, never want to stop buying real estate. You just got to be smart when you're buying real estate, right? Like you should just be planting as many trees as you possibly can. Like each one of these pieces of property that I buy correctly is a future big piggy bank for myself, right? And so that's how I see it. They're insurance policies. They're piggy banks.
Yeah, I love that, you used your experience in other industries to kind of be cautious. I think there's a great balance between being overcautious and just risk everything, right? You want to balance yourself, but I think you had that unique experience to like, okay, like you saw 2008, 2009, before it happened, and you were able to kind of, pivot and buy more properties. I know you say your regret is you wish you bought more, but you were able to buy properties when other people were
Yeah.
essentially losing their retirements and things like
And
that.
by the way, we're
Unfortunately.
going into a period where we're all going to be able to buy more properties,
Yep.
right? At better prices and be strategic about how we finance those properties. Like this is a great time for us. Great time, right?
I
There,
agree.
there's lots of problems that we're going to solve for people that have overextended, and it will create a tremendous opportunity for the people that understand what opportunity looks like. It's that simple, which is why I'm always on such a mission of helping agents understand what opportunity looks like. Because every day they drive by it and they get stuck on this like transaction treadmill, this little hamster wheel, and they don't know what opportunity looks like. So it becomes our responsibility as agents that think like investors. Always say I have the heart of an agent, but the mind of an investor, right? To teach my clients what opportunity looks like and to teach my agents what opportunity looks like. And we're entering into a period of opportunity. As the
Yes.
market is shifting, you got to be careful. I had lots of friends that got stuck, but one thing that they did was they kept playing the game. Does that make sense? And like
The
today,
same game.
the same game, like
Okay.
meaning they got stuck. They got their butts handed to them. They had two options. They could have left and gone to go get another job or do something else, but they decided to double down and they learned some valuable lessons and they kept playing the game. And because they kept playing the game and they didn't take themselves out, they're very wealthy today. So the goal becomes, can you keep playing the game and learn from
Yeah.
whatever lessons, right, in that process and make your model better?
Yeah. I have my brother-in-law is one of those that got stuck and then he like, I'm never doing it again. So he's very cautiously optimistic watching us do what we do at home. But so you got your license to do referrals initially. At what
Yeah.
point did that pivot for you as an agent to decide like I need to teach what I'm doing to other agents? It sounds like it was just for referrals at first, but something changed.
Well, okay. So I had an aha maybe 2009. And this sounds so basic, but it took me a couple of years to figure this shit out, right? I was like, being a wholesaler or being a fix-it flipper or being an agent are all the same business. And it's all earned income, right? We're just expressing that in a different way. And then and I call those cash machines. Those pay our 30, 60, 90-day bills, right? And I was selling a lot of contracts. So I was wholesaling a lot. So I was fixing, flipping, and wholesaling. And every
Uh-huh.
time I sailed a contract, it was a good deal. And I felt super regretful for killing the golden goose because I knew that thing would lay little eggs if I just kept it. But I needed the money. I needed the cash to pay for my life. And I remember asking myself, what kind of asset would I sell that I wouldn't feel regret? I'd say, well, maybe like a retail asset. I wouldn't care because it's not a deal, right?
Yeah.
Not a deal. And I had some friends that were builders and they needed help unloading some projects in Arlington. And I just happened to have my license. And one of my friends said, "Hey, can you help me sell this thing?" And I did. It was like for 1.7 million. And I made a really healthy commission in 30 days. It was like, I got to sell a beautiful asset that I don't regret. Like that's not an investment asset, right? I got to work with a friend. I bailed him out of a situation. I made really good money. I didn't have to travel 2.5 hours. I was like, I think I'm going to do more of this and then take that money and continue to buy assets, rentals. Okay. So that was the initial idea. And I also thought about, you walk into a Starbucks as an example, and let's just say there's 50 people in that Starbucks. It's like, how many people in here live in a home? The answer is all of them, right? Pretty much all of them. And then I was like, well, and how many of those people do I actually think are distressed sellers? It's like, maybe one, maybe, but there's 49 others that are not, that all need. I was like, so instead of trying to find the needle in the haystack, which, by the way, if I did find that, I should just keep it and not try to sell it, right? Maybe what I can do is create my cash machine on the agent side and have 49 deals happen. And the one that is one that needs help, I keep it as opposed. And so that was the germination of that idea. So I pivoted and then just started building out a sales team, right? And our sales team focused in the beginning, my sales team, when it was just me, primarily in like an agent partner, production partner, it was primarily working with builders, developers. And, when I reflect on that, the reason why I liked working with them was because they were investors. They were business owners. They weren't like everyday people. Like I enjoyed that business owner conversation, which is why like over time, my business really migrated to helping builders, developers, investors, business owners,
Yeah.
right, build wealth through real estate because I was like, I'm essentially working with myself, right? Like I like these people. They seem to like me because we speak the same language. And so we decided to really start expanding that idea and that model. And I call that the agent investment model.
Why do you think more agents don't think like that? I feel like now that I'm in the circle, I feel like everyone's an investor, but really if I look up, there are so few of us that actually do investing. Why do you think agents don't think like that? We're like insider stock traders, but we suck at it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I think it starts with the education at the brokerage level. That, they make money by helping you like learn how to buy houses, right? But nobody has really played that game well. Like there isn't, normally the people that think that way kind of gravitate more towards commercial. Like a lot of commercial brokerage that happens. But I remember having this idea. I was like, especially when you see what some of the big asset managers out there have been doing over the last decade, is they realize that homes are an investment, right? Like buying rentals, like single family properties. Like that's why you had like some of the big boys start coming in and buying 2,000 homes, 3,000 homes, right? Like Invitation Homes. They're like, oh, this is an asset class that we can actually buy and get a good yield on, right? And up until that point, nobody was really thinking of it that way, right? That's just kind of more over the last decade that people have been thinking of it that way. And I remember thinking, well, why isn't there a residential investment agency that just dominates? I was like, there isn't. There are investment commercial brokerages out there. But why isn't there a residential? And it's partly because the industry just hadn't been focused there. And so, we're on a mission to build that. That's what we're uniquely building. I'm like, oh, there's a lot of us out there, Anna, right? Like you guys, there's a lot of us out there, like segmented. And I'm like, let's bring them all under one brand with one ethos and one idea and play this game. And by the way, that game won't resonate with everybody. Some people they just want to do luxury neighborhood stuff. Cool. Do that, right? Play that game somewhere else. But that's not my game, right? And so, and that's okay. Like, that's what's cool about this industry is that
Yeah.
anybody can play this, what I call zone of market. Just so happens that my zone are investors.
Yeah. We pivoted to this topic. I mean, it's the reason why Ann and I started this, and the reason why, and I'm sure I'll speak for all three of us, why we are so focused on educating not only agents, but people about real estate investing, because it can really be a game changer for anybody who's looking, even if you're not in real estate, to just get a different avenue of income coming in. Because like you said, Rob, like agent, wholesalers, anybody who has a W-2, what happens when you don't sell a home? What happens when you don't go to work? You're not getting paid. And they don't really teach you these things in your real estate
College,
exam
school.
class or your school or anywhere really. So I think, Rob, you have the same mindset as us, and which I think, why you started recruiting and building a team of investor friendly agents is to kind of open their eyes, because like you said, it is a niche. It's not for every agent. It's for the people that are looking to build their.
That's right. It will resonate with the right who, right? With the right person. And by the way, anybody listening to this, and maybe you've been an agent for like the last 10 years or 12 years, and your brain has only been focused on the agent business, and you realize you're like, damn, I'm tired. I'm only as good as my last deal. I don't have a 401k plan. My brokerage hasn't provided that, right? There are some brokerages today that actually provide stock and ownership, which is awesome. Like, we're starting to see that, right? And so, but for the most part, most agents that I talk to don't have a long-term financial plan. Like, what are you going to do when this thing ends? And so if we can get to them early and show them, and there's two paths here, Nico. Like, I'm going to be very clear. This is interesting because, like, I'm writing the book on this, like, as we talk about, right? Because there is nobody that's really written the book and the model around this. I believe that every agent should learn how to invest, but not every agent wants to be an investor-friendly agent. Those are different, okay? Those are different. Now, I believe that the investor-friendly agent model teaches you how to invest, right? And puts you in the path of opportunity. But you don't have to do that. You could be like a badass neighborhood agent that learns the game of investments, and now you look at things differently, right? Because I used to think that they were like, it was one or the other. And I'm like, no, there's plenty of people that every agent should know how to invest. Every agent wants to invest. There's only a few of us that want to play the agent investment like game, meaning like the friendly investor agent, like investor friendly agent. But every agent should learn the game of investing, right? And so I just believe that lined up the dominoes for my team, because if I taught them how to work with investors, then they would put themselves in the path of more opportunity, because now they're speaking the language every day, right? It's not like, oh, I should do that. It's like, no, this is what we do every day and have these discussions every day, right? So I just want to make that distinction.
Yeah. And I mean, you're right. It provides opportunities because there's agents that don't want to be investors. They may not necessarily want to work with developers or investors per se, but having that knowledge, I'm astounded when I just talk to everyday clients, when I'm like, oh, well, what's your plan with this? Will you rent it? Maybe you can turn this into an ADU. I give them other alternatives that an agent that has no investing experience wouldn't be able to provide. And they may never become full-fledged investors, but they're like, wow, that's something I have not heard from someone else. And you become more of a trusted advisor than just someone that's trying to push them a house.
Yeah. So now you bring up another piece that I'm passionate about, right? How do you separate yourself from the thousands, right? Let's just say thousands of agents in our market. Okay. Well, the way you do that is by becoming a true fiduciary to that client. Now, how do you become a true fiduciary to that client? When you actually understand the full game and you're helping that client potentially build wealth. And I stopped viewing myself like a realtor. In fact, this was my clients that kind of said, hey, Rob, you're really more like a real estate financial planner. right? Like I started entering into those conversations like similar way, where I was like, hey, we don't have to sell this house. Let's not sell this house. Let's figure out how to keep this house and buy another house, right? Now, they might say, no, I don't feel comfortable being a landlord, all that good stuff. Cool. Okay. But I want to give them options to learn how to play the game. Ultimately, if you can help somebody create a better economic situation for their family, they're going to view you a lot differently, right? Even with first-time homebuyers. Now, when I teach my agents to play the game with first-time homebuyers, I'm like, yes, we're going to help you buy this first house, 100%. But if you stick with me, I will help you buy the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the 10th. I will help you and your family build wealth over the next 20, 25, 30, 40 years, right? That is a very different conversation. And like you said, you become a real estate advisor, really, to your clients. It's powerful.
Yeah. It kind of shifts the conversation, right? Like how many agents are actually telling clients, hey, maybe you don't need to sell your house, right? It's kind of like reverse engineering. And then you put yourself in the seller's shoes, like, oh, I came into this conversation thinking I need to sell my home, but you
Well,
know what?
trust is built that way
Yeah.
too, right? The whole thing is there's a no lose in that conversation because people feel like, okay, now I can trust you because you're actually telling me the truth here about everything, right? Which means you got to learn the game. If you're listening to this, if you're an agent, you don't know the game. How could you possibly take somebody on that path? So I said, first person that goes on that wealth journey is you. So you can bring your clients along on that wealth journey, which means obsessing over reading books about investing and how to invest and watching videos and attending RIAs or meetups or grid or whatever have you. Like I was, I I was and continue to be obsessed about the game.
Oh,
Yeah, that's it.
so Kanza is your agent group that you
Yeah,
have
that's a
people come
sales team.
on,
Yeah,
and
I call
and then
that's a sales team.
and then Grid is what? How did Grid come about? What was the birth of Grid, and what is it, and how did it come to be?
Yeah, so Grid started originally as the Kaza Investor Network. Okay, it was my investment community, and I started getting other people to run Kaza investor communities, right? But I remember being like, they're helping me build my agent brand, and it's kind of weird, right? And Anna, why would you want to help me build my agent brand? Like, I think I need to take this out of my team name. And if I wanted to really scale this around the country, I need to create a brand agnostic name. And it should be brand, it should not be my sales team. It should be an idea, right? A community about helping people build wealth through real estate. And so through the years, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to build this community and I'm going to put the agent investor at the center of that community selfishly, because it was like, I know that there's people like us, and I wanted to give them a platform so that they can monetize that platform, just like I had monetized that platform. And I'm going to show them how to do it because they don't know how to do it right. Like I'll generate millions of dollars every single year from mine. And like I see agents doing it or I see investors doing it. They have no idea how to do it. Right. So I'm going to give them a playbook on how to do it. And then over time, we just started realizing, cool, we'll build this brand called Grid. It really wasn't until 2019 that we said, we're going to take it out of our name, right? And make it Grid. And that's when we really started kind of launching around the country. But then COVID happened and we had to do Grid like online, which was terrible because really like this is an event type of lead generation activity, like in person, right? Sure, online's got its place, but human connection happens in person, in the room, relationships, partnerships. So I was thankful that era ended and we got back to business, which was building this community. And so Grid itself is a community of real estate investors. We've got 30,000 real estate investors all throughout the country that just happens to be led by agent investors like us, right? Like me. I'm going to say like us because I know that's what you guys do too, right? You play the agent investment game. which means that you like to work with investors. You are yourself an investor, right? Like you're part of that tribe in that community. And I also learned who was like, we are the tip of the spear. Like we know everybody, we understand the game, we're connectors, right? I was like, okay, now we're going to build the largest agent-led real estate investment community in the world, right? And that's been the driving idea. And there's a book, but by the way, there's lots of investment groups that are out there, but there isn't one that's led by badasses like us who are the tip of the spear in our local community. So I'm going to be that. Like I was like, that's what we're going to do, right? And then what happened was Kaza was always benefiting from my community. Like all of the leads that I get for my business are primarily generated from my local investment grid. And I realized I could expand my sales team by opening up a grid in another market, like Knoxville, Tennessee, right? So the idea is open up grid, teach leaders how to run this play, open up grid. I'll show you how to pump opportunity into that community, be the agent voice in there, and then work with those investors and make money. And there's 4 types of investors and there's ways to make money with all of them. And so I was like, oh, this is a way to actually expand my sales team. And by the way, I gave it as a gift to the world. I'm like, any sales team can literally just copy what I'm doing, right? Through grid, right? Like, okay, well, you could do it on your own, or you could do it through grid. And we've already got the whole thing built out for you, like a coaching program, right? And then we realized the broader community, what you're going to see 2.0, is that the broader community for years has asked us to have a coaching program. And we've just said, no, like we're deal makers. We don't coach. Like we do this to do deals. But I finally partnered with somebody who's going to build out the whole coaching program for all of the grid community, right? So people can come in and learn how to, what we call, ascend the 7 levels of freedom game, right? Go through every level and learn how to build really badass cash machines by either running an friendly investor agent sales team or, wholesaling or fixing and flipping. Those are kind of like the 3, right, that we do. So that's how it came about. And then I realized that grid had become a brand. And as we developed more business units, I was like, okay, well, I need to tie all of our offices together in a way. So how do I do that? I was like, well, we'll build a holding company. We'll call it Grid Capital Partners. Grid Capital Partners will own the sales teams, acquisition, title, mortgage, all the rest, even our investment community. And I'll administer shares to all of our partners, right? With the idea that 10, 15 years from now, somebody says, I love what you guys have built. You're the largest agent-led investment network in the world. You are this ecosystem of investors, and we want to bite at that apple. And then it'll create an economic opportunity for everybody in our company, right? But we build it because we love it. Does that make sense? Like, I want you to hear that, not because, but I'm an investor. So I'm building it with an investment mind, right? I'm like, how do I create an opportunity for my VA who's in the Philippines? Like, how do I make it so that, I have people that have been with me 15, 16 years. How do I create an opportunity where they're like, cool, this is awesome, right? And so you guys will see like a 2.0 version of our world, like coming out in the next year. And so, we know what we want to build and we know who we are and we know where we fit. It's going to be freaking awesome. I'm so excited,
Yeah, I think the magic about being in person, and I know I'm saying that while we're all recording online, but being in a room with people that are investing and, this is coming from Ann and I, who also host local meetups and masterminds, being upfront and knowing that you have to, teach a topic or something like that. 1, it helps you learn it. And 2, it helps build some credibility. So anybody who is, coming to these meetups, they're like, okay, Nico actually, first of all, he owns real estate, so he knows what he's talking about. And 2, he's out there trying to teach it for free and, giving all this education. It helps build credibility. You get clients. So any agent listening to this, there's value. Obviously, there's time that you have to put in the sacrifice in that, but there's value of, building some credibility as an investor friendly agent in front of 10 to 30, 40 other investors, right?
Yeah, Nico, what people don't understand, well, what we've helped our partners understand is that it's an influence play, right? And there's a lot of things that you could spend money on or time on. Like you could go and spend lots of money and time on Zillow leads, right? Or Realtor.com leads or PPC leads or all the rest, right? And I was like, well, if I'm going to spend money and time on anything, like I'm going to spend it in putting on like badass investment events because these are multi-transactional clients. And I have a teacher's heart. Like I like to teach the stuff we do because the journey for the investor is not easy or the journey for the agent isn't easy. And so that it is a way of creating impact as well, right? And I think anybody that does put on meetings like you guys do, like you have that in you, right? Like you have that in you. Yes, it's a lead gen tool, but you would do it anyways, right?
Yeah.
And I just happen to master how to make it a lead gen tool. I think a lot of people do it by default and not by design. And what I've done is make it by design, right? So at one point I just looked at my business and said, guys, we're not going to do anything else except put on like the best investment events in the world. And they're going to drive all the business to us. And that's all we're going to do. Right. That's what I've done with my sales teams. And it works. It's like, cool.
Yeah.
Then everybody's energy is just to like invite people to the event. All your team members, invite people to the event, right? Call absentee owners, invite them to the event. Call wholesalers, invite them to the event. Call builders and developers, invite them to the event. And then record the thing because like it's an influence play. And then chop that media up and then like push it out there, which if you follow me on social, you'll see that that's what I do, right? Like that's the play. And it's like, I'm already doing the meeting. I might as well record the meeting and I might as well then amplify it to everybody else. Right.
Yeah.
And it becomes a flywheel for the business.
I'm learning. I'm taking notes because that's the part I fail at. I love talking about it. I love teaching it. Fully acknowledge I have not learned to monetize the meetings or generate the leads.
Well, the truth is, here's a way to think about it, right? For you guys. The most valuable asset that you have is time. And I remember like, I would take time, I run my meetings and it takes time from my family, right? It's at night. Ours are at night, 6:00 at night, 2 to 3 hours long. I'm like, if I'm spend that time, there's a purpose behind it, right? And the purpose is, and I'm very clear with people when they come in the room, the reason why I give all this away for free is because I want to do deals with you. I want to do deals with you, right? I want to lend you money. I want to borrow money. I want to take your listing. I want to sell your listing. I want to buy your asset. Like, let's do deals. We're deal makers. This is why we do this, right? And that resonates with people because it's totally transparent. It's like, cool, Rob wants to do deals, right? And that like, I don't make any, like I'm in the business of wanting to make money and I will get, right? It is a Gary V jab right hook type of thing, but I want to do deals, right? And so every year we'll make billions of dollars from our little investment. Simple. And if you're running an investment group and you're not doing that, I'll show you how to do it, right? Just join Grid. That's how it works, right? Be a Grid leader, right?
Yeah, you built something awesome. And I think that mindset of, yes, you're giving it, you're a go-giver. You want to give everything that you're learning, you want to give it, pay it forward, but then also, making sure that you're, and on the back end, something can help you. But Rob, I know we're getting close on time. I'm going to give a few final questions. You've been in the business, almost 2 decades. Don't want to age you, but I got 2 decades now.
Years.
Yeah, 20 years. And we'd love to know what is, the best piece of advice and what is the worst piece of advice that you've received over those 20 years.
I love it. My business partner comes in and like sticks his tongue out at me. I'm like, dude, we're doing a podcast. What do you should do? And we'll be 17 years. Wow. I love it. So give it to me again because he totally distracted you. What was the question?
Just the best piece of advice and the worst piece of advice that you've heard over the 20 years of being in the real estate business.
The best piece of advice that I got from my mentor when I was in college, who was not in the world of real estate, but a very successful business owner. I'm a young 20-something-year-old, and I'm like, how did you build this? And he's like, hard work. It's like, it's hard work. I'm like, yeah, but the janitor works hard. He's like, you got to work smart. I'm like, great. Work smart is work hard. Give me something more than that. And he said, Rob, I promise you that more than like 85% of it is just like working hard. Now, I'm going to frame it a little bit differently, right? But I think but that was a valuable lesson, right? Is that good things don't come easy. Everything good exists on the other side of hard. But I had to find the right vehicle, right? And real estate was the right vehicle for me to decide to work hard and put everything into. I looked around and said, hey, there's more millionaires that have ever been made in real estate. So like, seems like something that the everyday kind of guy could do if I just work hard and I obsess over it. Obsession is a business model. Like I read every book, I watched every video, right? So that advice, just be like, Rob, you don't need to be smartest guy in the room. You just have to be willing to pay the price it takes to build something great. So that was good advice. But I also saw that he was really good with people and that he'd built a company taking care of people. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to work hard and I'm going to take care of people. I'm going to make sure that this business is about them and, not about me. Now, in the beginning, it wasn't that. It was like all about me. Right? But then over time, you realize like there's more to life and like it's got to be about them, right? And like a switch flipped. So that was one of the best pieces of advice, right? Just understand that you could do it if you just have the work ethic and are willing to pay that price. The worst piece of advice wasn't like advice, but it was me watching people pretend to be something they weren't. I think that there is power in leveling up your identity. I do believe that. Okay. So follow me for a second. Your income, your business will only grow to the extent that your identity does. Okay. That your leadership does. But there's some people who are reckless about it. They like that whole fake it till you make it. And like they've leveled up their identity without the financial education behind it. They're just like all talk, no substance. And there's a balance there, right? There's got to be like real substance and you've got to like level up your identity. So in our business, how did I start leveling up my substance, my identity? Was actually learning how to run a business. That's how I upgraded it. When you learn how to run a business and you close your books and you look at your P&Ls and you obsess over your balance sheet and you understand the correlation like of the flow of money and all that stuff, like it made me a better investor. It made me a better business owner. It made me a better like wealth maker. It helped me lead my clients better, my agents better, right? So my advice for anybody is just like learn the language of running and building a business. By the way, the first business you're running is your household business. Your house is a business, whether you believe it is or not. You are the leader of that little household. It has a P&L. If it's negative, you've got debt, right? If it's positive, you've got surplus cash. You feel me? Right? Mm-hmm. And so I was like, the sooner that we can get real about that, and it took me a while to get real about that, the sooner we can get real about that and not run away from that and actually lean into that, like you'll build a big business. This morning, I had a conversation with one of my agents. She's a brand new baby in the business. She needs to get out of the house that she's in, right? And I said, we're going to reality check this, right? How much debt do you have? How much money are you making? What are your monthly expenses? Like, let's put this all down on a piece of paper and look at it. And then have a real conversation about what has to happen for you to move out of this house, right? And I call it reality check. Everybody has to do a reality check of where they stand, not pretend to be something they're not, right? Because then that's when true things, it's like stepping on a scale, being like, okay, it's the reality of the scale, right? And then making decisions according to what you want from reality, right? So
That's step one, is knowing where you are and figuring out where you want to become. So I love that example, Rob.
yeah, become the business person you know you are. Listen, if you're an agent, Nico, you're not closing your books at the end of every month, like you will be stuck on a transaction treadmill for your whole life. There's no financial like independence without accountability around money. There just isn't. You're flying blind. And by the way, I flew blind for a good 5-6 years. It was like I flew blind. So I'm just speaking from experience.
Yeah.
And so close your
Right.
books.
Right. So many gems there. I know you mentioned Rich Dad Poor Dad as kind of igniting that mindset. We always love book recommendations on this show. Is there one or two books that you would recommend anybody that's interested about business or real estate that you can give our audience?
Yeah. There isn't any, listen, I think every book carries, so like there's wisdom in all this stuff, right? Like I've read so much through the years and I've extracted value from all of them, right? There isn't any one. You'll start realizing that there's patterns, right? In a lot of what this, call it success science, or there's just patterns. But a good book, I think, is really helpful for any small business owner is just profit first, right? Talking on the theme of closing your books, right? Like that pay yourself first kind of idea. There was a time where like we always paid ourselves last. And I was like, well, that's, like pay yourself first, right? And so I would say that's a good book, right? As an agent, like The Millionaire Real Estate Agent was a great book. Like all of the books that Gary Keller wrote, like gems, right? The book Flip that he was a forward on, that was a gem. Like it was a gem because like I flipped a lot of houses up until that point. I saw, look, I got it right here. Like nobody in the Keller system like reads this book, but like wrong, right? It wasn't written by Gary Keller. But when I read this, I was like, oh yeah, like these people know what they're talking about. I had already flipped maybe 150 houses by the time I read this book, so I saw it for what it was. So there's lots of good books, right? I would just say anybody listening, the bigger piece is put yourself in rooms with people that are doing things that are 10x where you are, and that alone will change your life.
100%. I love that. I love that advice. Yeah. And Rob, we talked a lot about real estate, right? And this is a real estate show, but outside of real estate, what do you, Rob and your wife, what do you guys like doing outside of real estate? Any hobbies?
I used to feel guilty about this question. Like, I don't feel guilty about it anymore. Obsession is a business model, right? I look at real estate. I think about real estate. We buy real estate, right? Now, we've organized our life around it, meaning like, I like to camp. I like to hike. I like to walk in the woods. I like to think. I like to write. So we just buy houses out in the woods where we get the ability to do that, right? So travel. But when I'm traveling, what do you think I'm thinking about? I'm like,
Looking at houses.
I'm like, I wonder how much this house is. What could we actually rent this for? What's the business model for this thing, right? When I stay at hotels, I'm like, what do I think the business model is for this thing, right? It's just how my mind is, right? So there's now we work out, like obviously my wife and I work out together, we walk together, we dream together, we built businesses together, we own assets together. And so we love our life, right? I think that's the big thing is like, we love our life. We love what we've built, what we're building, the people we're building it with. And I remember like, people would be like, what's your hobby? And I'm like,
Real estate.
starting and building businesses and thinking about how to do that, right? And so like, I just enjoyed that. And what I realized was that is a form of sport for me. That makes sense. It's a form of sport. Now, it doesn't mean, by the way, Nico, that I don't get tired of it. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to I just want to put my brain on a beach for 5 days or 3 days or however long. It doesn't take long, by the way. 2 or 3 days or 4 days outside of my thing, I'm like, okay, I'm now looking at different things, right? But what I was really, I'll tell you, the good news is where I am right now in my life is that I have such incredibly talented people around me that take a lot of the stuff that I don't enjoy doing off my plate, that I'm always kind of playing in the areas that I want to play in. And so I enjoy what I do. But I remember maybe 10 years into the journey, Nico, where I was doing a lot of it myself and I was exhausted. I remember going to Costa Rica for a solid 15 days, where I was the first time I had been away from the business. And it was almost it was like therapy. It took me 15 days to fully detox from all of the work and calls and texts and emails, right? And so, today I think that's part of the journey of the entrepreneur. Is can you put yourself into places that you just enjoy playing in and delegate out the rest of the stuff? And if you can, then you're playing in your zone of genius. You've heard that, or you're playing in the areas that bring you energy. And so you start saying well, what gives me energy? Let's just stay more in there and try to delegate the rest. But you can't, the interesting thing is you can't delegate until you've earned the right to delegate, which means you got to do all that shit that you don't want to do, right? Yeah. In order to earn the right to delegate, right? It's interesting.
That's right. That's right. Awesome. It's been a lot of fun. We could definitely talk for another hour. We'll have to have you come back on because there's so many different topics we could talk about. But for anybody that wants to learn more about you, learn more about Grid, where can they reach out to you?
Just go to Grid Investor, gridinvestor.com, or on Instagram at Grid Investor, right? You'll find our whole ecosystem, and you'll see that website changing here in the new year. It'll show all the different verticals that we're up to and playing in. But that's the best place to start.
Awesome. Well, but definitely make sure to put the link in the show notes. But that's going to do it for another episode of the Agent to Investor podcast. Please share, subscribe, reach out to Rob, reach out to Grid. They're an awesome community. I've been to a few of their meetups, but you can reach out to me at ngarcia official on all social platforms. And you can reach out to Anna at
I'm Anabolic_realtor on Instagram and Anabolic Every Wealth. And I just want to plug that. So Grid meetings for people going is free, right? Because I know some people are well, how much does it cost? This is a free event for people to go learn, right?
Every month it's free, completely 100% free.
Okay. And there's even online versions. I've seen sometimes some of the trainings are online. So you can figure out a way to get there in the room.
No excuses.
No excuses. So, all right. I'm done.
Thank you, Rob.
Hey, thank you, Nico.
Tune into the next one.
Appreciate it.